changes in her life. We will hear about that today. We will also hear about a career that's made her first name a household word. Please welcome Annette Funicello.
We should tell our viewers at home, too, Annette, that when Annette first walked out today, the audience, almost as one, began to sing the Mickey Mouse Club theme. It was really quite a nice moment.
M-I-C-K-E-Y. What a song. And look at him. Look at his ears.
I know.
Yeah, we should get a shot of Kevin.
Should get a shot of Kevin with the ears.
Well, we're so thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you very much.
Nice to be here. What a welcome.
Let's go back to when you were filming this movie with Frankie Avalon a few years ago, and you were having a tough time. Tell us what you noticed first.
In the sand, I couldn't walk. I guess it's kind of hard to walk in sand when you're absolutely fine. But Frankie would make a joke of it all the time and say, well, have you been drinking for lunch? I mean, I would try to get up from a seating position, and I would kind of stagger. And just walking hand in hand with him on the beach, it was so hard for me. And I thought, something is really wrong.
And this is the first time this has ever happened to you?
Yes. Yes, on this picture. We filmed it in 1986. And then my eyesight was getting so bad. I couldn't read the newspaper anymore, and I kept going to my ophthalmologist saying, you got to give me stronger glasses because I can't read anymore. And I said, old age is really hitting me pretty fast, and he knew it wasn't just old age.
Did you really think it was old age, or did you think it was something more serious?
I thought it was more serious. I thought it was a brain tumor. I just was scared to death. And when I had the test, the MRI, the neurologist called me into his office and he said, your tests have come back. And I'm thinking, oh, please, please, please don't be. And when he told me I had MS, it was like, whew.
Because that was better news than a brain tumor.
You bet. Because, you know, I hadn't heard much about MS. I hadn't read very much about it. I had only seen those two letters, MS, in print before, and I didn't know very much about it. But I was just so relieved knowing it wasn't a brain tumor.
Let's take a question from our audience. Missy, go ahead.
How did you feel when you first found out you had MS?
How did I feel? Well,
besides the relief,
yes,
was there, when you started to understand it?
Relief. I remember thinking, but gee, I'm fine, and if I have to have something, I'm glad it's MS. You know, if this is the most that ever happens to me, I never realized that it does get progressively worse.
Now, at first, Annette, this was a diagnosis that you chose really not to talk about very much.
Yes.
Really only close family members knew what you had been told.
I never told my father for a long time.
Why?
My father is, first of all, the dearest, kindest man in the whole world, and if I have a head cold, he goes to pieces. And I thought, what is this going to do to him? And I said to my mom, please don't mention it for a while. Let's see what happens. And I could see the look in his eyes. He would watch me walk.
He knew something was wrong with his little girl.
Of course he did. And I couldn't lie to him anymore.
At what point did you tell Frankie Avalon?
You know, actually, I found out later. We were scheduled to do a tour. I was going to be on the road.
For a year?
Over a year, yeah. We started in the very last of '89 and all of '90. And I wasn't going to tell him, but my husband called Frankie on the phone one day and he said, I'd like to meet with you for coffee. He felt that Frankie should know about it because my symptoms may have been getting worse, and he wanted Frankie to know what was going on. Also, I had a terrible problem with my balance, and Frankie and I do go to the front of the stage to sing and to talk with the audience, and we shake hands, and it was so easy for me to, you know, to fall over.
So when you told him, what was his reaction to hearing?
I didn't know Frankie knew.
Oh, your husband went behind your back and told him.
Yeah, he did. And throughout the entire tour, I kept saying to my husband, I've got to tell Frankie. I just feel that he should know. And my husband never let on.
Oh.
Frankie never let on. And finally one day I called Frankie aside. We had a little bit of time before we had to get to the theater. And I said, I have something to tell you. And I told him about it. Well, he was the best actor in the world. Academy Award performance, because he went,
Oh, he did.
I mean, he did the whole thing. And he was very concerned, and he said, thank you for telling me.
Had you hidden the symptoms from your audiences pretty well?
Oh, yeah.
Had you?
Oh, sure.
Before we go to a commercial break, which we're going to do in a second, why did you feel the need to hide this from people?
Because I didn't want people to worry. I didn't want pity. I didn't want to burst their bubble, because nothing wrong ever happens to Annette. You know, I was raised in Disneyland, and
You're magic.
yeah, I didn't want to worry people.
You're still magic.
Oh.
Let's take a short break.
You will know who our special guest is today if I simply say that Annette is here. And she is here. Nice to have her with us. Let's go all the way back to the Mickey Mouse Club days. Your family was originally from upstate New York, Utica, New York.
Yes, Utica.
How did you happen to be chosen for the Mickey Mouse Club?
We had moved to California when I was 4 years old. My dad is an auto mechanic, and he just got tired of working under the bitter cold elements and the sweltering heat in the summertime. So he said, let's go to sunny California. And my mom said I was young enough and dumb enough to say, okay. And they moved out there, and I started dancing lessons when I was 5, and took every kind of lesson imaginable. I mean, I just loved music. I couldn't get enough of it. People think that they made the move so that I could get into show business, and that's not at all true.
How old were you when you were chosen?
12.
12 years old.
So how did you land that role or that spot? What did you do?
Well, I was dancing in a little school recital, and unannounced, Walt Disney was sitting in the audience.
Ooh.
And he saw me dance and got in touch with my dancing teacher.
You want a little touch of nostalgia, everybody? Let's take a look back to those wonderful years in television on the Mickey Mouse Club.
Is as beauty does. That's what wise men say. Now, if you would be beautiful, do this every day.
Hi, Mom.
Always make your
I'm Annette.
neat, for neatness really pays.
Oh,
Love it.
So what's it like?
that little voice.
What is it like for you to look back and see pictures of you from that period?
Do you know, I realize now that I sounded like Minnie Mouse. I had
That's why you got chosen.
That's right, that's right. That little thing that I was singing was called a Dodd-ism. Jimmy Dodd wrote it. He would write all these little things for the show. In fact, he wrote the Mickey Mouse Club March. And it was a very special time for me because I was with 23 other boys and girls, and we were comrades. We were brothers and sisters. We had a boss that was just absolutely wonderful.
Were you
Walt
tutored
Disney.
there, or what? How
Yes.
did your school work?
Had all my schooling there. I never went to a public junior high or high school. I had the same tutor. I still see her today. We have reunions.
Oh, that's neat.
What an
And,
amazing opportunity, looking back
Yeah.
on it. Stephanie in our audience has a question. Go ahead, Stephanie.
When you were growing up, did you go to a regular school? Did you have a regular group of friends that you hung out with?
I never went to a public junior high or high school. I had the tutor because those were the years I was at Disney Studio. Before that, I went to a public school. But the thing that I missed, and don't get me wrong, I really loved all those years, but I did miss a junior prom and a senior prom. But I got to relive those through my daughter.
Did you feel a little sheltered because you did just hang out with this group of 24 kids and not hanging out in the public school?
I was very sheltered, you know, very sheltered between my dad and Walt Disney. I mean, I just led a very, very sheltered life, and I loved it that way.
Does it
That was
astound?
fine with me.
Yeah. Does it astound you now how well people remember, and do adults now come up and sort of bare their souls and tell you what a fan they were?
You bet they do. You bet they do. I think the comment that everybody makes, people will come up to me and say, "You're the best babysitter that I've ever had," because they knew they were cooking dinner and their kids were sitting quietly in front of the TV set. And of course, I could never appreciate it then. I didn't know what they were talking about. Now I go, "Oh, you're right. I know what you mean."
But your career continued. A lot of teen stars, they drop off after, you know, early career, but you continued with a lot of the, you did Shaggy Dog, Walt Disney, and then you got into the beach party movies. Let's take a look at one of those.
Yeah. Okay.
Make your blanket made for two now.
And a boy and a girl.
That's a game for me and you now. Yeah, let's give it a whirl.
Beach blanket bingo. A beach blanket bingo. Beach blanket bingo. That's the name of the game.
You were hot.
Do you know, Frankie and I did about 8 of those beach pictures, and they've asked different audiences, which one do you remember the most? Which title do you remember? And that's the one, Beach Blanket Bingo. Isn't that something?
Did you ever have a crush on Frankie Avalon?
Yeah.
Did you? And you were working with him, and did you hide it, or did you let him know?
We dated.
You did date?
A couple of times. We sure did. Before the beach pictures, because when we did the first one in '63, he was already married. So this was many, many years before that we had dated. And,
The other thing that I'll bet you most people would remember if they were to be asked about those beach blanket movies is, yeah, Annette was in those movies in a bikini, but those swimsuits were very carefully chosen, weren't they?
yes.
Yes. Did
Yes.
Disney have something to do with that?
Yes. I'm known as the one-piece person.
But it was a two-piece suit, wasn't it?
Sometimes I wore a two-piece, but not exposing the navel.
That was Walt's rule, always cover the navel.
Well, it wasn't even a rule. It was just a request that he made, because he still had he had full script approval when I did those shows. And
What's the big deal about showing your belly button?
well, you know, he said, "I know everybody will be bikini clad, all the girls on the beach," and he said, "I'd like you to look different. You know, would you mind wearing either a one-piece, or if you were a two-piece, not exposing the navel?" And I respected the man so much that of course I didn't mind.
Do a lot of men come up to you now and say, "Oh, you were the one I had a crush on when I was a little kid"?
Yes, yes, they really do. I was their first girlfriend. You know, I have so many ladies come up to me today, and I said, "Do you want me to sign your autograph?" "Well, sign it to my husband because he's in love with you." So, you know, it makes me feel so good that there's no jealousy. You know, these ladies are my friends. We've grown up together.
Elisa mentioned a few moments ago that a lot of child stars or teen stars do kind of fade away. But Annette's career flourished right into her adulthood. And up next, we're going to hear how she gave most of it up at one point to stay at home and be a mom. We'll also hear about her return to the screen with Mr. Avalon. We'll be back.
Annette Funicello is our special guest today, and we have a question for her from Janet in our audience. Janet?
I was wondering, have you had or are you going to have a Mouseketeer reunion?
We have them all the time.
I mean one that's going to be televised.
Oh, televised. I don't know. There's really nothing being planned right now. Oh, I take that back. There's a Disneyana convention coming up in September. And they're getting back as many of the original Mouseketeers as they can find.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Enjoy
That'll be exciting.
Always exciting. I mean,
Back-
these kids are dynamite.
Oh, you bet. Back in the 60s, after you and Jack Gilardi were married, you decided at one point that you wanted to just put show business on the shelf for a while and go home and have a family and be a mom. How difficult was that decision?
It wasn't difficult at all.
That was
I just
you.
said, I'm staying home. I want to raise my children. I don't want a nanny. to see my baby take first steps. I want to be there. And I really pulled out of the business for a good 3 years after each one was born. And then my pal Dick Clark would call and say, I'm doing a special, and would you just make a guest appearance? And so I just kind of eased back into it.
Which is great, because that kept you in the limelight enough without having to stay on top. You could still be home.
But they were always things I enjoyed doing, like a Love Boat here and there, or a Fantasy Island, or, you know, something like that, a cameo in a film, just enough to keep my hands in it.
Arlene has a question. Go ahead, Arlene.
Annette, you're beautiful. How many children do you have?
Thank you. I have 3 children. Gina, who is now 27, and Jack Jr., who just turned 23, Jason, who is 18.
Do they have any aspirations to get into the acting field?
No.
And are you glad about that?
Yes.
Why? Why are you happy about that?
Well, because there is no Walt Disney around today that will guide you the right path. And he was so special, and he made things special for me. And I think the upbringing that I had in my years in show business as a child star is different from everybody else's. That relationship doesn't exist today with studios.
Take us to another point in your life that may have presented some conflict for you, and that is you had an image, of course, that was very wholesome and clean and all American, and yet you were facing the end of your marriage. Was that difficult for you?
Yes. Yes, there was no divorce in the Funicello family, and it just wasn't heard of. It was a big, big step, and I thought, the people out there are going to hate me. They'll turn, you know, from me, and oh, it was so hard. And my religion, it was against my religion.
Who provided your greatest support during that time? Who could you turn to with the loneliness and the pain that you must have been feeling?
Oh, I couldn't really pinpoint one. I mean, my religion has always been so strong, so I can't say that I turned to God. I've always turned to God for things. My family, my mom and dad, understood what I was going through. In fact, they pretty much knew even before I told them.
How did your family accept your remarriage, your second marriage to Glenn?
Oh, terrific. I mean, Glenn is absolutely terrific. He's been a godsend. He really has. And my kids love and adore him. And he's just a neat guy.
So a happy person. The things are happy again in your life.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Let's take a short break there. It was just at the point where Annette's career seemed to be in an upsurge when she was diagnosed with MS, and in a moment we'll hear about the rumors and innuendo that prompted her to go public with the challenge of her illness. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Jason in our front row has a question for Annette Funicello. Jason, go right ahead.
I'm studying to be an actor, and I was wondering if you had any advice to give to people like me, who's ever going about that.
Do you do any school plays? Do you participate?
I'm out of school now.
You're out of school?
Yeah.
Did you ever study acting?
No, I wasn't in drama in high school, but I'm taking night classes right now.
Well, that's good. You know, as much experience as you can get and working with other people is important. And, you know, it's so hard. It's so difficult to break into. And it's a real tough field. So be sure that that's what you want to do.
Okay.
You know, as you mature. It's real hard.
You know, you always got stereotyped as this wholesome, sweet little girl. Did you ever want to just go out and play the devil, the nasty one? Does, you know, this... Do you ever get this urge to be mean?
I was never a dedicated actress. I was never out there for that Academy Award performance. You know, the things that I did were always light and comedic, and that was just fine with me, you know.
What prompted you in '86 then to come back and want to do the Back to the Beach film with Frankie?
Well, Frankie is my pal, first of all. We always have such a good time working together, and the script was very good. Now, we had prepared this, believe it or not, for a good 4 years. And the people writing the script were on the wrong track. They were trying to make Frankie and Annette as we used to be, not today, up to date. So it was important to have the right script, and it was fun. We had such a good time.
Did it feel like going back in the old times? Was there some flashbacks when you were doing that?
It was like deja vu. You know, our first day on the beach, it's like, I've been here before.
That must have been a little weird.
It was great. It was weird. Yeah, but we had a good time.
Marilyn in the audience has a question. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Yes, I have an acquaintance friend who has MS, and his symptoms kind of come and go. I mean, so I was wondering if that's the same case with you, if you can expect that and it's unexpected and you don't know when it's coming or when it's going to leave. And
yes, exactly. I have good days and I have bad days. It's so unpredictable. And the thing that I've found is that you can't compare symptoms with somebody else because everyone is so different. And you never really know how you're going to feel when you wake up tomorrow. So that's why I'm always so happy that I'm feeling good today.
And you've started walking with a cane, and I've got to show everybody this cane. I'll hold that up to the camera.
Yeah.
Tell me the story behind this. It has Mickey and Minnie and Donald all over this cane?
Yes, and Babes in Toyland characters and a couple of records that I had done.
Was it a gift?
Yes. Yes, my friends at Disneyland created this for me. I had a cane that was aluminum, and when I would go to the airport, I would buzz, you know?
Oh, sure.
And they would take the cane away from me, and they'd say, now back up and walk through again. And I said, I can't walk without my cane. Please don't do this to me. It was terribly embarrassing, and it's happened every time. So my friends at Disneyland read about it, and they made up this cane, and they presented it to me for my birthday last year, as a matter of fact.
Was it also a hard thing for you to come to terms with having to carry a cane?
Yes. Yes.
What do you do on a daily basis physically to combat the effects of MS?
I work with a physical therapist, and I have therapeutic massages as often as I can. You know, it's the deep tissue massage.
Are you in pain?
To get the circulation. Am I in pain? You mean every day? No, no. It's affected me from the waist down, and my legs at the end of the day get like weights, like lead weights. So, you know, by the end of the day, to carry around heavy legs makes you tired. And my equilibrium is what's bothered me most, because I could stand up from here, and if I don't steady myself, I could fall over, and people used to think I was drunk all the time.
Right.
Is that why you came out with it, or why did you decide to go public with your disease?
You know, the main reason was because my son, Jackie, said, a friend of mine saw you leave a restaurant, Mom, last week, and said, boy, did you have one too many. And Jackie said, and I knew that wasn't the case, Mom, and I couldn't tell her what it was. Because he said, I knew you weren't drunk.
And fans of yours, I know, were really incensed when the tabloids were hounding you about that kind of thing. I think that's a question or comment that Tom wants to address himself to. Go ahead, Tom.
I was at the supermarket and I saw this star on the newsstand. I was shocked, of course. And I wrote you a letter of comfort and commiseration. I hope you got it, because I have MS and I know what it's about. And I think that you handle it really well. And I was very pleased with the article that you put out in People, because it told it straight.
Tom, for her to come forward with it, how has that helped you as a person with the same illness?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe it validated me a little bit. I mean, Annette is a cultural icon of my generation. And so now I'm connected.
Oh, exactly. That's what so many, and thank you, Tom, very much. So many people say that now. We're truly friends. We have a connection. Exactly. And I agree with you. I think the story in People magazine was done so well. And when I first decided to go public, though, I chose USA Today because I knew it would
nationwide
get to the world.
Well, we want to thank you for visiting with us here in Seattle.
Thank you.
And it's a delight to meet you.
Very much.
And I know it meant as much to fans who have known you for 20 minutes or 25 years.
Oh, and
thanks,
thank
Annette.
you all for being here.
We'll be back after this break.